On this day in 1966, Celtic took their first step on the road to Lisbon. Celtic were drawn against FC Zurich in the first round of the 1966-67 European Cup, and the first leg took place on the 28th of September 1966. Zurich were managed by the great Laszlo Kubala, who played international football for Hungary, Czechoslovakia and Spain, and spent 10 years at Barcelona, where he is still a club legend. He had managed Barcelona from 1961 to 63, but his preparation for the tie was not exactly thorough. The Glasgow Herald reported the day before the match, "Whereas Mr. J. Steen, manager of Celtic, took the precaution of watching his club's opponents in action in their own country, his counterpart, Mr. L. Kubala, stayed at home and has chosen to take things as they come." Kubala was telling anyone who would listen that Zurich had come to attack. But this wasn't fooling anyone, with the Glasgow Herald concluding, "The probability is, however, that on the continental pattern when playing away from home, they will be more concerned with keeping the score down." Just how concerned became apparent shortly after kick-off. As they embarked on what was their first ever European Cup campaign, Celtic lined up Simpson, Gemmell, O'Neill, Murdoch, McNeil, Clark, Johnston, McBride, Chalmers, Auld, Hughes. Zurich were a big physical team and set out from the start to stop Celtic playing. The Glasgow Herald reported on the 29th of September 1966. "From start to finish, Zurich put the emphasis on physical contact as they sought to contain the lively Celtic attack, in which the smallest player, Johnston, was the main target of abuse by defenders who stuck at nothing to check their opponents and conceded free kicks in almost every minute of the game, to the annoyance of the crowd of 50,000. The Danish referee, Fred Hansen, lost control of the match, and scuffles broke out more than once, with Neil Mochan at one point running onto the pitch as Joe McBride was surrounded by angry defenders after a clash with the keeper. Zurich's spoiling tactics were very effective, and frustration was setting in when the half-time whistle sounded with the match still scoreless. They continued in this vein into the second half, and tempers spilled over. Ger Henderson wrote in the Evening Times of the 29th of September, "Johnston, and the worst offender on the field, Stearley, had a real go, and after one incident, when the ball and the referee were far, far away, the left-back went down writhing in agony." He maintained that Johnston's elbow had done the trick, and within seconds he had swapped a tooth for a tooth. Gemmell came into the act immediately, and there was a stand-up brawl, with players fighting and shoving to get at opponents, and players pushing teammates out of trouble. These dirty, disgraceful scenes went on until the final whistle. Astonishingly, no Zurich player was sent off. As he would do so spectacularly in Lisbon 8 months later, it was Tommy Gemmell who broke the deadlock on 64 minutes. Picking up the ball on the halfway line just outside the centre circle, he strode forward before unleashing a rocket shot from about 30 yards, which crashed off the underside of the bar and then past the astonished keeper. Joe McBride added a second 5 minutes later, picking up the ball on the edge of the box and moving to the left before firing a low shot from 20 yards that took a deflection on its way in. McBride was robbed of a second goal by the referee, who had spent much of the match indicating to Zurich players time wasting that he would be adding this on at the end. In the dying seconds, McBride headed past the keeper, only to realise that Mr. Hansen had blown for full time as the ball was in mid-flight. The Swiss were delighted to escape with only a 2-goal deficit. Kubala told the Evening Times, "Now we are only 2 down, and we have ground advantage next week." Ground advantage did them no good in the return, even with 41-year-old Kubala himself in the team. Tommy Gemmell scored twice, once from the penalty spot, and Steve Chalmers chipped in with another, as Celtic went through 5-0 on aggregate to complete that first step to glory.